Welcome the fuck back to the Dichotomy Diaries. I'm your host, Amanda Arnier, and I sincerely apologize for the delay. I was down and out with some crazy, terrible illness for about 12 days. Legit put me on my ass in bed, could not stand up. But we are back and ready to dive right into part 3 of AMBRE'S story. Before we proceed, a quick trigger warning. This episode discusses domestic violence and stalking. So if those two things trigger you, probably just be careful or skip over this episode and head to the next one. AMBRE shares her harrowing experiences along with some jaw-dropping and surprisingly funny stories about Dick's rather, unconventional bedroom requests and some online videos that we both wish we could unsee. We can't. I don't want to keep you waiting any longer, so let's jump right in. I'm Amanda Arnier, and this is the Dichotomy Diaries.
Wasn't his problem. Didn't acknowledge it. Didn't try to see if I was okay, and I was so scared, like holding myself, looking at him, like, and then nothing. He just keeps talking about this move, and there's just the emptiness, weirdness in his eyes, and that was one thing I just knew. Then I was like,
The
I don't think
blank
this person.
stare is
Yeah,
almost more like it's one of the scariest things because he's really the only person that I've ever experienced that with.
you
Thank
too.
God, because it really is like
This
I don't.
is
It's
that's the
the
look people.
I can't do it because I'm too emotional. Like
Yeah,
I could be like, yeah, I don't fucking care, but my eyebrows are raised and it's like she's sassy.
yeah,
Nothing, like nothing in the face, and it makes me think back because I don't know how long he has adored UFC, but I would probably say a long time.
yeah,
One thing that we didn't even touch on is the fact that he has this felony, this violent felony for strangulation with Joanna, and almost seems outwardly proud of it, kind of, even though because he says it like he's proud and he's open about it like he just something about how the way he openly says I have a violent felony seems extremely weird and very off-putting. But that was one of the things that he did with her. I mean,
yeah.
are you gonna tap out now? One of the
Hmm.
he and when you brought this up to me initially, I had never thought anything of it in like a control tactic, abusive kind of way because I did see it as like he's play wrestling with me, but he's just really strong. So he doesn't know his own strength kind of thing. But dude would literally like I would be I'm trying to think about how it would work, but his arm would end up like this, and then he would like sweep his leg out from under, and then I would like fall into
Take
this.
you off your feet.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot. And I literally did have to tap because it wasn't like he was letting that up. But again,
Hmm.
like me, I probably was scared, but I was like, ah, ha, 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 like what the fuck,
Yeah.
Try.
There's a lot of processing that has to kind of happen in that moment. Like, did this just happen?
Yeah.
But in
Yeah,
that
but you
moment, I
always
also
make excuses.
knew.
Oh, he doesn't know his own strength. Oh, Ferdinand
Yeah,
the
but
Bull kind of bullshit. It's like, no.
and I was getting to a point though, I had seen the explosiveness that I didn't think he was capable of, like the person he said he was,
Hmm.
wouldn't do this,
Yeah, no.
And I was like, okay, now I'm very nervous about him, and the eggshells I think were made a little sense with the explosion and those things. Um, and I was getting more suspicious of his behavior. He ended up like only a few days later. He ended up saying like we were going to have dinner. I was getting dinner ready, and then or maybe it was lunch. I don't remember. I think it was lunch because it was earlier in the day. He's on his phone a lot, whatever, working. I don't know, right? And ugh. He's like, I'm gonna have to go. I'm like, what? Where? And he's like, I have to go see Hawaii guy.
Ugh.
I'm like, well, yeah, he hadn't seen him in a while from what I knew at that point. I'm like,
Yeah.
to train him, it's like a Friday or whatever. I'm like, what?
You got to go to Hawaii last minute on a Friday to
The
personal
same
train.
day. I'm like, so he wasn't planning this? Like, it just came up? I'm like, okay, you know? And I'm like, interesting. And
Yeah,
then I
I
take
mean,
the air. Or no, 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 no. Okay, so there was this funny thing that happened. So he said something sexually about using my imagination. And for whatever reason, I knew that meant butt stuff for him.
Yeah,
And
he loves butt stuff.
yeah, 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 yeah. So that night, I like stuck my finger in his ass before he left. And then he said something so funny. It was like, I'm not gay, but there's just nothing else like that. Right.
Oh, I
And I'm
know.
like, and my best friend, Jeffrey, he knows everything.
Mhm.
I drop him off. We're talking on the phone. I tell him, I'm like, who, my best friend is gay. He's like, oh, guess what happened? I told him, he's like, he's gay. And I was like, my best friend has never been wrong about anything with anybody.
Mhm.
And so I'm just sitting, we just keep talking about whatever else. I'm like, you know, um, I was like, okay, like noted. Because it
Well,
was
you're
more
like,
like,
"Oh, shit, well,
is
he
this the
said it,
first
so
time he's
now
going
it
to be
has
wrong?
to be true."
I'm like, what? I'm like, my best friend who's never been wrong now said something. I'm like, is this the first time he is? Or is it true? And I found out later he had suspicions already and he didn't like him. But so he's gone. Dick is gone in Hawaii, posting from the balcony about his
Without you
fabulous.
posting from the balcony, I was gonna just say,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah. From the Marriott or wherever he was at.
Oh, yeah, Bon Voy life, baby.
And next morning, I'm up early, starting my course for training. My best friend calls me, FaceTimes me, and it's like first thing in the morning. Um, and Dick is supposed to come back that night. He was only gone for a few days, also to train for a few days in Hawaii.
Mhm.
And so my best friend calls me. He's like, I found everything. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, everything. He's like, Dick's gay. I was like, what? It's like, what are you talking about? He's like, or he has a whole other life. I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I'll show you. He has 3 private Snapchats. He has Brett Michaels, an online alias, all different names. And I'm like, we're just like, like he's showing me like doom, boom, boom, boom. And he's like sending me these links. And I'm already on my computer. So I'm like pulling this up. I'm like, what? And it's like there were so many things that I was like experiencing in this moment.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is going on? And at these Snapchats, he also had an OnlyFans.
Mhm.
Well, she said that at that time I had a pretty PG, or not then, I had gotten rid of it, but I had previously had a pretty PG OnlyFans. And here he is, dick slinging. He's like abusing men. I found his online alias, his Twitter, where he is using. He's like, I use people as human toilets. His dick is out, like
For
all these
free,
things,
for free
huh?
on
For free,
Twitter.
for free.
For free on
This is the
Twitter.
worst business plan I've ever seen.
Bro, no one's gonna
Um,
pay the OnlyFans fee because you're literally just slinging the thing around everywhere on Twitter.
his camming advertisements, the escorting like ads and 40 pages of like everyone talking about that and booking him and all of these things and what
Yeah.
else and all of the stuff on Pornhub.
Oh, so I
He,
think that
where
that got deleted before I started sleuthing because I've been looking for it forever and I can't find it.
I may or may not be
Mhm.
able to locate that for you.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a part, it was like the biggest dildo I've ever seen.
Oh my
He's
god.
like, it's raping my hole. And I'm just like, oh my God, what am I
Bro,
watching right now?
I'm so
It's
repulsed when anybody says the word "hole" that I, like, can't even because I was so PTSD from this whole experience, and, when I heard him say that in a video, I was like, "Oh my
like
god."
spreading his cheeks, like butthole in the camera. Huge dildo where he's like
It
just really trying to go to town with that.
literally, the dildo is the size of a forearm. It
It's like the
literally
ones that you would see in a sex shop that you think is the joke.
Yeah, like, it's like you think it's a gag joke for sure. And also I love you brought up, like, the blog site where it's, like, everybody talking because there's literally, like, just tens and tens and tens of pages about how he's a scammer and, you know, all of these horrible things. Um, he, like, failed with the dildo, and so it was, like, super embarrassing. It was embarrassing that that's there in general,
Like, how did that one make it to the internet? Maybe I would have cut that part out. I'm
like,
just saying.
I'm just he literally I feel like he's like, "Ugh, whew," like, wipes his brow, like, can't do that one," and I'm like,
Did you see the one where he's like eating his own cum?
"Oh my god, yeah, that's a good one." Yes. Yes,
And while
I've seen
he's
that one, that's always the weirdest thing ever, and I'm just like I mean, I know that people do that, but, like,
yeah,
bro, you're fucking don't.
like we didn't I didn't I don't know how first of all, I didn't even know this was happening. Okay. And here's the other thing is on Twitter. So I went on his Twitter where he's posting all the time under this alias.
Mhm.
So had I known the alias, I could have looked at the alias and found these things, right? But I didn't. Um, and I saw him post with a man he was with in Hawaii in real time. And I
No.
was like,
Did you get to see his face? Have you ever seen what he
yeah,
looked
I
like?
have a picture of it. I can share that with you. I have a full everything. And then also the poppers when he went to meet up with somebody and do their thing. And these were all like real time things. And I'm just like, my God, it's all true. I'm just like screaming. I'm like laughing and like it's the shock and like just the gasping. We're both freaking out together because we're discovering like more and more in this moment.
Yeah.
So much research, seeing Boston guys stuff. I'm like, oh, who said that he was his slave and doing all of these things for him, and that he was going to be like mind controlled, and that it was his, and like the relationship stuff. I'm like,
Mind control
oh
is literally, like, one of my one of my favorite terms of this whole thing because it reminds me of that Zach Galifianakis movie, like, where they're at dinner around a table, and he's like, "I can do mind control." It's what I think of every time Dick would talk about it. I'm like, "You mean manipulate? Oh,
yeah,
okay, alright. Someone pays you to
yeah.
manipulate them. Wow."
And it was so bizarre to me to see him be like one meeting people, right? Obviously escorting stuff weird, and then but also like, oh, you're using people as human toilets and kicking them and abusing them and doing all these things that it's like you're home with me and like lovey dovey, the sweetest person singing
Mhm.
to me, right? But then
Praying
you go and abuse
praying, I
people
don't
and you're
know.
yeah, yeah. And then you're actually meeting men behind my back and you know putting these massive things inside your holes.
Mhm.
So it was quite a shock. But in that moment, that's where I was like, oh, this person's a
Yeah.
fraud. It was all fake. That gave me like the last thing. Like I already knew I was on my way out,
Mhm.
but that was like, oh, it's fake. It's done. I'm out of here. Um, but this was but as those feelings set, I get off the phone. I'm like, wow, like, that hurts, obviously, to, like, live
Yeah.
a huge double lie, but what made me kinda weirded out by that is, one, I see his weird aggression and saw that moment of violence with him and him have no remorse, is that I was like, and then this person also lives a double life. I'm like, "This person's I have no idea what this person's capable
Right, it could be a
of,"
serial
or I know
killer.
that they're capable of bad things, and I felt in my soul and intuition that it wasn't safe to confront him about these things. And he was coming home that day. So he was coming home from Hawaii, was only going to be home for like 24 hours or something.
Mhm.
And then he had to go to Boston again. Now I know what Boston was, so whatever. Uh, I had to play pretend
Ugh,
in the house. Like I didn't know anything that was going on, which was so weird and nerve wracking. And like when he would come and hug me, I was so tense and so uncomfortable that I'm like, this person just went and met these like men behind my back. And like he just seriously hurt me a couple days ago. I was already going to leave him, but I'm like, what happens? We already see what happens when I confront him on little things that
mhm.
he's supposed to be responsible for. What if I really call him out in person?
Yeah.
What happens then? And so that just wasn't the risk I was willing to take. There was something in my intuition that told me that wasn't safe. And so I played Susie Homemaker, and we went to sleep that night. I avoided sex because I was obviously now nervous. Um, Played Susie Homemaker one more day
Yeah.
and laid in that bed. And I remember just quietly crying myself to that stupid sleep number or whatever, crying myself to bed, knowing that this was the last night where I was in this pretend relationship and I was never going to see him again. You
Ooh.
know, and he goes to the airport that morning, and then and he knew he was only going to be gone like 2 days, so I had 2 days to completely uproot and move my life. And still, I wanted to be very careful about how I did that because now I'm like, I don't have any clue who this person is. And they've already seen him be violent. And I don't want him to get suspicious or weirded out by me. So I have to keep playing like normal. And
Mhm.
keep in mind, like when he leaves, he will still say some of those abusive things about not being able to trust me. I'm a whore. Like, what am I doing? And it's not every time, but it was often enough that I can't tolerate that, and I was already on the way out.
Yeah.
But then it was like, okay, I need to still handle these situations the same way. I can't just be like, oh, like, fuck you. I know everything. I
Mhm.
don't want him to come home in a hurry and catch me off guard. I was really scared of that he would come in and then see me moving out. And then it would be, and now knowing what happened to with his ex, like, I'm really glad that I didn't because who knows what that could have ended up in. Especially when it was me taking control in that situation.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean,
it's,
I was gonna say, obviously, the story that all of us get from him is very different from what actually happened in real life. And for I think basically for all, maybe except for Joanna, like I think that was pretty obvious what happened there. Um, but he has always made it seem like he was the one that left the relationships, all of them. Um, if so I'll tell you, I mean, I'll just tell you what he said about why your guys' relationship ended. It was because you wouldn't stop being online and you wouldn't give up boyfriends, and that made him very
mhm,
uncomfortable. And okay. And then you're like, but what do you mean? You At this time you were actively doing Findom, you had an
mhm.
OnlyFans, you were probably on Seeking, like all of the different things.
Yeah,
So that explanation was never, like, valid for me because I was like, "That's crazy," and then
yeah,
when it comes and it's opposite because then a lot of the other ones where he said, um, "They all left and stole my stuff," the opposite happened there. It was he abandoned and left all of his stuff, and never came back to get it, and in his brain,
crazy.
they stole everything, and I mean, that's my
No,
version. That's what he
yeah,
tells everyone about me. I moved away to Chicago and stole all of his belongings.
yeah, we had a conversation early on so that we were seeing people and, like, once we established this is our relationship, like, I was done. I didn't wanna see anybody else. I'm like, "This is my soulmate. I don't wanna see anybody else," you know?
Right.
No, and then the online stuff stopped because he's like, "Oh, this is the last thing, and then I'll be able to take care of you," like an idiot I was at the time. So it was never an issue. I was always, like, begging him to be the partner he said he was.
Mhm.
And that was always difficult. It was not the case. I found out everything because he had hid it from me the entire time and was
It's
seeing other
so
men behind my
wild that
back
he was
not.
able to do that
Yeah,
for so long, and also, like, the balls on this fucking guy. Like,
yeah,
um, to post in real time? He's gotten,
right.
he's evolved. Like, he doesn't do that. He doesn't do the posting in real time, and you know
Mhm.
what I mean? It's like, I don't know. He just would it makes me super angry for you, but, I mean, at the same time, it's like he's gonna do this to every single person that he meets in some capacity, and it
Mhm.
has nothing to do with our ability to see the flags or,
Yeah,
see the clues even, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's some clues, but I mean, it's funny because you say it just like I do, like, I'm like, "Yeah, okay, like, I'll put that in my file cabinet." You're like, "I'll take note." And we do that and we think that in the moment, but, like, I didn't fucking go through the file cabinet until he had left and never came back.
right. Yeah, it
So,
was once I everything, then it was like all the
yeah.
math is math now.
Yeah.
One time it just came to mind as a random side tangent, with him, like, the running and the explosiveness, and him always blaming talking about the exes like they were horrible. Well, I was friends with one of them previously, and I was, like, defending her over a dinner. We stopped so on the way back from Mexico, we stopped in Miami to see one of, his friends, one of our friends, um, who I found out, he told me later too that that Dick stole his sugar daddies and would do really weird conniving things like that.
I know who you're talking
Um,
about, yeah.
yep, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I like him, he's cool.
Mhm.
And, he's in and Dick was like, "I want to take you to this really nice dinner. The run to the Salt Bay place. We go there." And I was excited because I like doing nice things, and he hadn't done that in a while. And one of my things also was like receiving gifts and feeling taken care of by my man. And like he hadn't done anything remotely like that in so long. I felt so starved for him to like love me in that way.
Yeah.
And then we go there, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm getting water. This place is so expensive. I'm just getting the burger. It's so expensive. Like, why did we go here? Like, why? It wasn't even my idea." He's like, was like, "Well, I'm going to take you here, da da da."
That's what
Find
he
out
did
we
to me
borrow
with
like money from this friend to take me to restaurants. I'm like, "What's going on?"
yeah.
Like, but anyway, so we're cashing out the bill, and then he's talking shit about this ex, and I was like, look, I literally said, I'm like, I don't have that experience with her. Like, she's not that bad. Like, I understand, but I'm like, she's not bad like that. He like throws the pen across the table, doesn't hit me, fortunately, stands up and leaves the restaurant and walks down the street. And I'm just like, is it like what? I'm like, I know the truth about this person,
Mhm.
at least to my own or at least I said I didn't have this experience, so I can't say that that's true. But I understand if you feel that way, and he did not like that.
God, it's just so weird because there's not really a rhyme or reason sometimes for why he freaks out. I mean, to freak out on you when you're in Reno about you asking a question about a fucking fake plant or whatever it is, it's like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's just so crazy because you know what it does is it makes us afraid to speak at all. And
Absolutely. I'm like, am I going to say something that's going to set him off and it's going to be the worst thing ever? Because every time that does happen, it is the worst thing ever.
yeah, I before you finish with your escape, which good for you for that you made that choice because
Yeah.
I regret not doing that, but also I have grace for that version of myself, and I know that I couldn't at the time. Um, so talk about June 21st,
What was June 21st again? Remind me.
my wedding day.
Was that when he reached out to me and said,
No, remember, so when we were talking about like when we first started
mm,
talking, um,
how that was supposed to be our wedding day?
yeah,
Yeah, because it's right around the birthday and all that as well. Is it like we were like he was like, I want it to be like the longest day of the year, and this will be our day. It'll be so special. We're supposed to get married in Greece and all of these lovely things. And then when I saw that you guys got married on that day, I'm just like, "What?"
yeah, he said exactly the same thing. I want it to be on summer solstice because it's the longest, brightest day of the year, and you light up my life. And I was like,
Verbatim.
it's a Tuesday. It's weird, but all right, that's cute. I'm such a stupid idiot. But it's like all those things you just kind of just you make excuses.
Yeah,
And then you also had mentioned that he had given you like a piece of jewelry, which we also
yeah.
have a similar story there is the first thing he gave me too.
Yeah, the first trip when I went to see him for the very first time in Vegas on my own, he gave me and then my first love language is receiving gifts, second is quality time. So
Mhm.
when people do things like this, it's like it makes me feel so special, especially got me something I wasn't even there. So it's in my absence, it makes me feel even better. And it was so sentimental. He got me a necklace. It was like a rose quartz necklace. And he was like, this is just like representative of our love, and it means unconditional love and all of these things. And it's for like healing and peace and all these things. And I'm like, was that just like another manipulation tactic? Like, of course. But that was so weird. And then you have a similar experience, right?
Yeah, the first trip that we ever took was to Sedona, and Sedona is just like very, very healing, vortex, crystals, all of that. We went to a crystal shop and he was going towards all the ones that are like, "Ooh, wealth, money, luck." And he's like, "Oh, look at this. This is cute." And it was a heart-shaped opal. And he, like, flipped it over, and the price was $33, and 33 is my lucky number, and he's like, "Oh, we have to get it." And the opal something with love and whatever it was, um, that heart-shaped opal was something that, like, when he would go on his trips or, whatever he's doing, I would, like, put it in his bag because I packed his bags for him always. Or, like, I'd put it under his pillow. On our wedding day, I put it in his suit pocket, and my vows were kind of written around that. And so, it's just, like, blows my mind, all of these things. Obviously, the wedding date thing, just I was like when you told me that, I was like, "Nothing I know is real." Nothing.
Yeah, and that's and not funny, ironic you say that because that's when I found things out, I really was I'm like, "Nothing I know is real." I
Mhm.
kept hearing more and more crazy stuff, and I'm just like, "How is this possible?" Found out like, he told me that he at one point lived with Matt, and he was just trading cleaning cleaning it to live in the mansion or whatever, and I found out later that he was there's this album on Matt's phone of all the things that he's done for him and whatever, and it's just so bizarre. So, yeah, I was making my escape. So I dropped him off at the airport when he came back from Hawaii, played Susie Homemaker.
Mhm.
He's going to Boston again. And like now I know what it is, so whatever. So I am like quickly trying to do research. To find a pod, to find like how can I get moved out? How can I get into a good place? My girlfriend that I was training, the psychologist, like she's like, you can come and stay with me. Like, don't worry, whatever. And then so like literally in one day, I was like doing all this research, finding stuff. I packed up the whole house, like the whole house of my stuff. Never took any of his stuff. And I realized how much of the stuff was actually mine when it looked so empty afterwards. But put it in like the pod in the lot, and the next morning it was like that day I packed everything up, and then the next morning I had two friends, my psychologist friend and her fiance at the time. Helped me pack everything up in just a couple of hours, and I hightailed out of there, stayed at their house, and while I was packing up, it was another one of those moments where he's like, "I don't know if I can trust you, blah blah," and I'm just like, and then I'm like, and then I knew I was like, "Oh, every time he's done this and said these things to me, it's because he's doing something. He's
Yeah.
guilty." These people, and that's usually what the case is. They're usually projecting whatever horrendous
Yeah,
behavior they're doing on you.
I think that the thing really is like they don't the feel of shame and guilt is something that they try to avoid at literally all cost. So I think that
Hmm.
if he did start to feel probably what he doesn't even know is guilt because he doesn't possess the ability to feel that, he
Hmm.
he had to feel something different and had to be in control of how he was feeling, and so he would rather project onto you and be angry, fake angry, and be regain some sort of, like, fake control.
That gave me one half a moment of peace because I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I know then those points where I was questioning myself because he would say these things to me and make me feel horrible
Mhm.
that, oh, it's just because he was up to bad behavior. Got it. And
Yeah.
I even sent him, I remember I sent him, I was like, oh, I'm like doing laundry. I've been on FaceTime with one of my best girlfriends in Oregon. And I sent him a screenshot. He's like, oh, like, I'm sorry, baby. I just need to work on myself. Like those things. I'm like, yeah,
Dude,
it's okay.
honestly,
I was doing laundry, but I was packing it all up.
you probably won't get this because you're not from Chicago, but, like, Dick working on himself is like the construction on I-90. Like, it never ends, it's miserable, it backs everything up, it literally is a season. Like, it never goes away, never gets better, but it's always just still there, and we're always still paying for it. Like, it's
Vegas has a very similar circumstance. There's always cones and something being like the road work is always happening. It never ends.
oh my
It
god.
was probably here before the city was here. I think most people would feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean,
And
working
who
on
knows if it's
myself,
even real? Like that's
yeah.
how I feel about him working on himself. Uh,
I really would probably pay any amount of money to see his face when he walked back into that apartment when your stuff was all gone.
Should have put a camera in, right?
Yeah.
Well, he found out before, so he thought I was going to be picking him up. So I end up pretending like I still am going to pick him up.
Mhm.
And he's like, he tells me where he is, which Romeo is, and he's like, "Hey, where are you?" And then he FaceTimes me, and I was like, "I know everything." And then he was like, "What?" And he's like, I'm like, "I know everything that you've been doing. I know where you really were, what you're doing." And he's like, then he did the 180 where it's like those weird, not the same person eyes. He's like, "Oh, fuck you," and like hangs up
Yeah.
the phone. And I was like, whoa. Like that was like when he's like, "Oh," he's like, "I've been caught. Like this, the gig is up,"
Shame.
you know.
Shame. He can't deal with it.
And he can't get caught. That's not can't handle that either.
Yeah.
And it was so crazy. And then I ended up like after that, I sent him the screenshots. Like me and my best friend, he was like, "We found all these things. We're collecting the pieces." He actually, what we did. This was I remember. So what like the night that we were home together for the last night, my best friend, he made he subscribed to the OnlyFans and the Skype because we
Mhm.
wanted to like let's just see what he says. Let's see what he does. I'm laying in bed with him while he's messaging him on
Oh
OnlyFans,
my god.
and he's active. He's active, laying right next to me, doing all
I've
of
done it
this.
too. It's so great.
Just like what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just so crazy. I sent him screenshots of the OnlyFans, all the private Snapchats, the porn videos, the abuse, the picture of him with the men, the picture of him with the poppers with the guy who was about to have some things go down with, and I'm just like, oh god. Um, and another thing, I think it was like a this was another thing I threatened him with. I know he what is it? He values his freedom so much. And this was one thing that really scared me too, is that like
Yeah.
he has no remorse for anybody else except for himself.
Right.
I never went through his medicine cabinet in the bathroom. I needed like it was when he left. It was like I was already packing my stuff when he left. I was like trying to get think sunscreen or something like that.
Yeah.
I found a medication for a topical STD medication,
Mhm.
and I was horrified and devastated because one, by the way, this was actually prescribed by Boston doctor.
Oh, right.
So yeah, so I'm like, okay, so no, like I don't know, but this was new. This was news to me. Where did this come from? You know, and I told him over text. I'm like, just so you know, I have evidence, and I looked it up because he's a felon. If you knowingly give somebody something that you can't get rid of, like I'm gonna put you in prison.
I love it. I love it so much.
But it was true.
Yeah,
Like,
no, it is
luckily I had
100%
signed.
true.
Yeah, luckily I signed. I was like, I have evidence. Like, I was totally fine before we met. I found you have this medication that you hid from me.
Mhm.
And then he's like, I'll go get tested. Everything's gonna be fine. Blah blah blah. It's not a big deal. Everything's gonna be okay. And then he would message me. He's like so nice and so friendly. And because I was still nervous about him, I kept things neutral
Mhm.
in the conversation because I didn't want him to like rage find me or something.
Yeah.
And if anything happened, I never just blocked him because
Yeah.
I'm like, if I wind up dead in a ditch somewhere, I want them to be like, oh, they have her phone now. Now we know who did this. You know what I
Totally.
mean? And send me lots and lots of messages, act like a different person, the person he was in the beginning, like trying to win me back. Like he's like, oh, I have therapy scheduled. I talked to my pastor. I'm doing all this and that. And what was so bizarre to me is he posted everything on Facebook. Like he announced it to the world,
I was gonna
posted
say,
everything.
I just had to request that. I had just had to get that a copy of that again because I have to use it for something, and I
Mhm.
was like, "Damn, he really just put it all out there. He really just owned up to everything."
Yeah.
And put your
And I'm
name
just
in it too, which I was like, "Bro."
Yeah, yes. And then remember how I said like there were people that messaged me earlier in the relationship trying to warn me?
Mhm.
I go back to if I remember the name, I go back and message that account. And it might have been within it was in within the first week or right when I started finding stuff out. I was like, I was like, hey, obviously this person now knows I've gotten to that place also to figuring things out.
Mhm.
It's like, how do you know these things? What's going on? And I found out that he had the strangulation, episodes of abuse against, baby mama, the child. He has like these advertising and just all of these things that have been happening. And I was like, oh, okay. And then that's when I found out that the violence was real.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank God I didn't confront him. I don't know what would have happened. Based off of things that he would do when I did nothing, you know? So I felt that's how I got a little bit of relief, and told me these things that happen with exes and stuff. And so I don't know. I assume it's one of the exes. I don't know which one it is, but
Yeah. Did
yeah,
he,
you know,
I think it's funny because I think that everybody knows about the specific Facebook post. Did he try reaching out to you after he made that "I'm coming clean, giving it to God" Facebook post?
yes, many times he talked to me continuously, messaging me constantly, huge messages, sending me pictures. Oh, I'm swimming today. I can't stop thinking about you. I miss you so much. Like you're gonna see, like he's like, I'm gonna be going to therapy. Like I am gonna correct all these things, so that maybe in the future we can be together. On and on and on and on and on, all these things. So I'm like okay, like I'm like I know I'm never getting. There's no,
Mhm.
but I'm just kind of like letting him just say whatever he has to say, keeping it neutral. I was just trying my best to be safe
Yeah.
more than anything. And I I do a couple shoots, get some work done at my friend's house, get the pod removed from that lot, and I go back home. And I go back home to work, and I decide to stay with my family, my parents, after just to recalibrate because this was such a like whirlwind of emotion explosion. I'm like, I need a minute to process what just happened.
Yeah.
Move back in with them. I end up staying there beginning to end like 2 months. Within the first couple of weeks that I'm there, he he ends up getting a little too trying to timeline, make sure the timeline's on point. Starts going through all of my mail, and I did not like that. First of all, one, it's illegal. And then he questions me. He's like, "How did you have?" So I had an emergency, a few $1,000s, 5,000. I kept for the absolute end of the world. And then
Right.
when I found out that I had to leave him, and he was this other person. I went to the bank and deposit that money so I can pay to move myself out. And he's like, "Where did you find this money?" He's like, "I knew you were a whore. You must have been fucking all of these people." Blah blah blah, went crazy. And then I'm like also upset because it has all of my account information on it. I have to go close my fucking bank account. And then he's like, now he's aggressive with me again. And I'm like, oh my God. And I tell him, I'm like, I'm trying to like make the peace with it again because I'm still very nervous. And I'm like, okay, this is too much. I'm like, you need to really cut back. Like, you can't talk to me like this. Like, we're not going to be together, like, over and over. Get this when I'm like, it's not what happened. Is my emergency money. Not that it's any of your business anyway,
Right.
you know? And that was very unnerving, especially with him being like almost love bombing me nonstop, like 24 hours a day, trying to get him done. Like, hey, you need to like relax and just take some time for yourself. Like,
Right.
all
Like,
these things.
not accepting the reality of your choice
Yes,
at all.
yes. And then I will never forget this in my entire life. So, you watch a scary movie and then like the serial killer is standing in the rain on the side of the road
Yes.
and you just are driving by and you just see the crazy, right? So, my sister at the time had her permit. She wanted to go to a baseball game. So, she's driving my mom's car, me and her friend. And keep in mind, Dick had been to my family's house one time, ever. I don't know how he figured out where it was, whatever. I see him near my parents' house, standing on the side of the road with his hood on, looking like a psychopath, and just stares at me
No.
as we are driving down the street. Swear to God. And at this point, I turn my notifications off for him because I was like, this is too much. I can't, I'm trying to feel better, but I'm not blocking him in case something happens.
Right.
And I want to see. And I'm like, did he message me today or whatever? And I see he did. He sent me huge messages. He's like, I'm on my way, blah blah. He's like, God told me where to come and find you, and we're gonna be together, and that evil had control over it. And I'm like, nope, nope, that's it. I can't. I'm going to the police. I can't do this. I'm like, no. We go to this game. I'm telling my parents. I found out he said he's staying in Dallas, where my grandparents live. Like, how does he know? Like, it just like, how do you remember all these things? It's just insane. And I'm like at this game, I'm telling my best friend, like, luckily my dad has like 15 guns. If he tries anything, my best friend went over there just in case also. And one of my best girlfriends lives nearby and has like a young child. I'm like, I do not like if you are telling me that God had control over you, or excuse me, evil had control over you, and God said to come and that we were going to be together. Like, I'm like, mm-mm. Like I just we're not playing this game. It's not happening. Especially with that look at the end. It's like why? Like what are you doing?
Was the side of the road hood up, "I'm a serial killer"? Was that the black eyes, like, dark, like
Yes, yes, unpleasant. It wasn't like it was
what?
like that. I was like, fuck no. Like nope. After the game, I had my sister drop me off. I think I went and took a quick shower or something. I'm like, I was sweating profusely, so stressed, so panicked, and I was scared because he drove his little clown car to Oregon, and I was at my friend's house by myself, and I'm like, "Oh my god, does he remember where she lives?" Like, I was staying at her house, took a quick shower, was going to leave, and I was so scared. I like looked out the window and I saw a car like that across the street, and I freaked out. And then, like, I was like, "Okay, there's no one in it. It's not him, thank God." But it was such a stressful situation because I felt like I was working against the time to like keep myself in a safe place, go to the police, go to my family's house so I could just be safe, you know.
Yeah,
And I go to the police and I told them everything that happened. I told them, I was like, what can I do? I was like, I have told him to stop bothering me at this point, like multiple times. He's telling me that God has control over him. I told him to leave me alone. He's going through my bank information, like all this stuff. I already closed accounts, all this. And then they were like, well, they're like, because he hasn't like attacked you or whatever, basically hasn't done anything crazy, we can't like go and arrest him. He's like, but you could, this is telephonic harassment and you can send him the warning now, like, hey, you can no longer talk to me. This is telephonic harassment. Tell him exactly what it is. And like, do not contact me anymore. And if he contacts you after that, then we can go and arrest him. And I was
right.
like, okay, I can live with that. I don't like that I have to wait and see what happens. And then they were like, you can go fill out, like, try to get restraining order or whatever. I wasn't planning on really staying in Oregon.
Yeah.
I decided I did want to live in Nevada. I made great friends. I had great networking. I love the sunshine. I knew Oregon was never for me. When I
Mhm.
was flying in, I was like, I know I can't stay here. This isn't home for me. And so I decided to move. I was going to move out there by myself and then fill out paperwork to keep myself safe and just do it incognito. And I was incognito for like 4 months,
Yeah.
at least. Just always really careful about where I lived and posted. I was so scared. Like going to the gym, I got my concealed carry. It just made me nervous. It made me so nervous. But yeah, when I actually ended up moving, and he still would send me weird messages. Um, but at this point, he was back in Vegas, and I found out that when he's in Vegas, they can't do anything about it, or
'Cause
they
it's
couldn't do anything
different
about it.
states, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately that like and so they were like, you can file a protection order. So I got the paperwork to do that, started filling that out. They're like, but we can't do the restraining order, can't do whatever because all like these incidences and that report and all that happened in the other state. I'm like, so what? I have to wait for him to grab me and like throw me off the roof of the gym or something? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But that's really like kind of how it goes. And I'm like, it was very stressful. And I was always trying to be very careful and all that for a little while. But like right after I moved back, he ended up going, I think, moving to Arizona. And so I
Mhm.
was like, okay, this has got increasingly difficult and stressful, and there's not much they can do. And I don't want to attract more attention if he has to come into court for this stuff here and it be an issue. I'm like, he moved out of state, and I didn't know he would be back as much as he was. Otherwise, I would have followed through with it.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I just like let that rest. And then he still like would message me periodically and like he would send me stuff. Even on my birthday, he messaged first person to text me at midnight. He's like, happy birthday, I miss you so much, blah blah, all these things over and over, send me songs, sent me this song from Justin Bieber. And he's like, I listened to this for like the entire drive up while I was coming to see you, and send me all kinds of stuff about us. And I never replied. Never replied for months, for years, nothing. And then I had to have surgery about a year and a half ago. And then I had this random fan who likes to comment on all of my posts.
Mhm.
Through that fan had messaged me and I saw it. He's like, hey, Dick wanted me to, after surgery, they wanted to check in on you, make sure you're okay. Do you need anything? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, and I'm like, Dick who? And then he says the last name and I'm like, block. I'm like, this is crazy. So he's still watching. I have all of his pages blocked,
Yeah.
his like training pages, whatever, like personal pages that I knew of. Obviously, anybody can find anybody with a fake page, whatever,
Right.
which I assumed he was, but I wanted to remove as many areas of communication as I could. And another thing happened in the gym. I saw him like he visited one time, and I was talking to my one girlfriend and while he was like, if we're gonna mention one other thing, one of his best friends at the time, while he was in Hawaii, right when I was discovering things, he's like, oh, like him and I became decent friends at the time, kind of. We talked a lot. And he was like, I think he was trying to key me in on stuff that was going on. Maybe he like cared about me enough as a friend that he didn't love it anymore,
Yeah.
he was deceiving. And he was like, where's Dick? I'm like, Hawaii. He's like, oh, he's like, yeah. Like, doing what? Training is what he said. And he's like, yeah. And like that's I was like, oh, I'm like, then I knew like he was trying to say something.
Yeah.
We end up talking later and he's like, you need to get away from him. He's a horrible person. I'm like,
But I mean, like, why the fuck
yeah.
are all of these people that still remain in his life in some capacity, whether it's like acquaintance, friend, used to be good friends, whatever, they still entertain him. They
It's
see
very
him go.
bizarre. A lot of loyalty to people. So like if my best friend's like, yeah, this person really did me dirty, that person's never gonna be my best friend, I'll tell you that. Or confide in them or trust them. It's just so weird. I don't know. But a lot of people have a lot of fakeness to them.
I think a lot of
So
people use the excuse too, where like, well, he never did anything bad to me. And
yeah.
it's like, because you don't have tits or money, probably.
Yeah. You
Like
only got
two things he
a
loves
couple
the
offers
most.
there. Yeah.
Oh
And
man.
so this time in the gym, I was talking to my girlfriend and then that friend, and he comes up and he is like, we're us three, we're just talking, and he comes up and he's like shaking and like super red in the face, and his eyes are like red, and he's not saying anything. Us three are talking, but now we're like awkwardly like, what do we do? Because he's not saying anything, and like I don't want to talk to him, and they're obviously like, what is she gonna do? Because I already found out that like it already was a whole thing. And I look at him, I'm like, what? And he's like, and his eyes are like red and watering, just staring. And I have full panic, like on the inside. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, I want to get so fast. But he was like, can I have a hug? And I was like, no,
Ew.
like, get away from me,
The fuck do you
and
mean?
then I left. I'm like, what makes you, where is it? Where do you get the audacity
You
that
know
this
what's
is
actually
funny?
crazy about that question? Can I have a hug? When he came here to take the sleep number from me, the last fucking thing, right? He showed up at my
Yeah.
door randomly to take my bed away. Our bed, his bed, Dr. Sean's bed, really, but he came to take it away. And I was I was shook because I didn't know he was in the state, let alone gonna be at my door with police, and so I, like, called up to my mom, and I was like, "Oh my god, like, Dick's outside." She's like, "What?" And so she goes outside, and he's standing at the edge of the driveway, and he's with his one of his Illinois subs, who's, like, a basement dweller weirdo, and he was like, "Can I get a hug?" To my mom. After all of this stuff. I think that the social awareness level is like negative 300 for him. Like he doesn't understand social cues. And
I think someone like a sociopath like that, they don't feel the normal emotions where like that's inappropriate.
yeah,
Or it's like,
I
what
feel
are you
like
trying to get out of that? Like, why?
I don't know. Like I'm not a licensed clinician. I can't diagnose anybody, but like with everything
Yeah.
that I talk about all the time, like I lean more from sociopath to more like psychopath because I think sociopath like they really believe everything that they're saying, and even though they kind of have like short-term memory loss, like even though it didn't work out with the 9 other women, I really believe it right now with you and I love you and you're my soulmate. I think
In
that
that case,
he is
psychopath is
more
more.
of a psychopath because I think that he knows exactly what he's doing intentionally.
Yes.
There's not this good internal drive. I think that it's also
Maybe
serving.
this time, like, no. He's like, who's
Yeah.
the next one?
but just
Yeah.
I don't know, I think there's a little spectrum there, and I think there's a little there's yes, a sociopath, I don't know, disassociative, something like that, but he's definitely on he should be medicated.
Yes. And asylum. Um, and the last thing I heard from him is forgot the password to one of my Instagrams that I lost it for like 18 months or something longer. And so I don't think I had him blocked on that account. But like 2 months ago, he messaged me on there. I was like, what the? Because I thought he was blocked, but if it was that account, I just think I didn't because I didn't have it. And he messages me this blurb that says like, I believe it. This is almost verbatim. I could be off by like a word or two, but it was like, if I was in a room of all the people I would knew, I would still look for you. And I'm like, I haven't replied to you since 20 September of 2020 when I told you I went to the police and then never talked to me again. Like, what are you doing?
Why is he so serial killer with you? Oh, man. God, it's fucking
I don't know.
crazy.
It makes me very unwell. And it makes the people that care about me very uncomfortable, which was part of my hesitation on
Yeah.
participating. But I also have a lot of very good friends that would help mitigate any situations.
Well, you
So
stay strapped too, so there's that. You know, I
that's one of my friends.
yeah, I don't know, I'm just, also, he doesn't have a car and you do, so I just feel like he could never catch you on foot, but we don't need to make light of his craziness. What a fucking crazy story. And, I mean, the fact that he still reaches out to every single last ex is a testament to, like, what he thinks he's done to each one of us. It's like nothing, he
Yeah,
didn't do
especially when
anything.
he just has nothing but bad things to say.
Yeah,
So, and that
yeah.
that was weird too when you're telling me something like, is he just reaching out to all the people when we were together? Like he was engaged before what? Like it's just crazy. But that's also no surprise. Like nothing surprises me about this situation anymore.
Yeah, it's wild because I say this and I truly do believe it, but I don't think that the person who he really is who he portrays as Brett Michaels. Um, I think that Dick is the mask, you know? And I
Yeah.
think that sometimes you get the mask that's super Mormon, sometimes you get the mask that's, I think right now he's like practicing Islam.
Oh,
Yeah, that's new.
yeah. He's just taking on any identity that works, seeing what sticks with people. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very I'm just happy that we're all out of it, truthfully, and that we can take the experience, learn from it, grow from it, each one of us individually, but then also like help other people. Um, someone had put a question in the chat that I just didn't read because it's fucking rude, but they were like, is it just that you guys have horrible taste in men? And it's like, here's the thing. We're not the constant. Like,
My dating history is not consistent with that. So
yeah, right? Like, I don't want people to think that, like, I avoid that question, like, "Oh, yeah, I don't fucking have good taste in men." It's like, bro, the manipulation is real. All of the coercion is literally illegal now, and you can get put in jail for it. There's so many things that just speak volumes about the kind of experience that we had that make it real, and, like, I'm tired of people, like, diminishing it and making it a "you missed a red flag" kinda thing, so I'm also happy that part of this is, like, talking about it, getting it out there, and me being more public, so
yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I like about it too. And I think it's validating. So many people have gone through something, not always to the same degrees as everyone has seen through the other guests, but to
Mhm.
something to this capacity, and hopefully being able to recognize some of these red flags earlier on and avoiding them, or just it can look like a lot of different things, and shouldn't be tolerating it. But there is light at the other side getting out of there. So not being afraid to figure that out. You know, like I didn't know what to do. I moved back in with my parents. Like I didn't have anything to work with. You know, you just
Mhm.
you do figure it out. It does get better
You have more tools at the end of it. Not
when
ones that
we
you
need them.
wanted,
When we
but
need them,
you
we'll
definitely
see.
do.
There's a way. Yeah,
Yeah,
and there are resources. There's more professional, like resources as well too.
absolutely. And, more people, willing to talk and understand, and, I think that the internet puts us in it's good and it's bad because I think that we have a tendency to use the internet in place of therapy, which I'm a really big advocate for therapy, but you know, having a good support group and putting yourself through some sort of cognitive behavioral therapy is really like the answer to all of the problems and stuff that you go through in a relationship like this. Um, so yeah, I'm glad that you could spend almost 4 hours with me. I knew it was gonna be long, and
It's
I'm
good to
super
see a
happy.
little bit. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is great. I
Um,
think it's great, and I just I hope people find something. I mean, I'm sure this was entertaining, right? But more so, I hope that they you know find hope in these circumstances because unfortunately, it's more prevalent than people think. Maybe not people like Dick in particular, but having narcissism or abuse or whatever. It doesn't have to be all of them, but it's like see the signs and get yourself away.
yeah, absolutely. Save yourself.
Hmm.
Don't make it be them leaving. I think that that's, like, my one biggest takeaway is, like, even though it seems like you have nothing left and it would be a gigantic waste of time, if I would have left the first time I thought I should have left, I would be so much further ahead than I am right now, and even though I'm happy with where I'm at right now because I get to create a whole new life for myself, um, it still sucks being 33 and living with your fucking mom.
Yeah,
Like, there's no
I
other way to
found
go around it.
partners too initially, until I could restabilize.
Yeah.
It takes, and also I think you feel peace with some of your family. And so for me, that was I was like, I really need to be around safety for a minute because this was so utterly mind blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. Again, thank you so
Mhm.
much. I mean, do you have anything else that you wanna add? I'm rude, sorry. I'm like
No, you're not rude at all. I mean, and not so much, not like I think the messages I tried to deliver, I did already, follow me on my social medias, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that what we'll do end up doing it I mean, we can break this into 2, maybe 3, and so I think that it will be highly anticipated, and I'm excited that everybody showed up and had all the questions live. I think that that is super fun, but yeah, I just appreciate you being here, and, I'm sure that we'll have something in the future where all of us will get together, and I think that that'll be really fun where we can actually be in the same place. So,
That would make a super interesting episode. And for everybody to meet too. Like, it's kind of cool. Initially I was kind of about that, but I'm like, no, this is a good thing and I think it's very cool. And yeah. And I think there are a lot of people that have been curious. Like I've never publicly spoken about what has happened in my
yeah,
in that relationship. And I just aired out all the laundry right there. So
all the butt stuff.
yeah. All the butt stuff.
Yeah, and I think that it's gonna be I also think that it's great that Savannah's actually next, so, I think it's gonna be great to hear from her perspective after the fact because that's actually kind of how it worked out with, Rohanna and Kylie too, which I didn't plan, but
And she was the one that was engaged right before, right? Is that right?
Savannah, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how, if the overlap.
Yeah, the
There's
overlap
some
with
we're leading up
timeline and
to,
whatnot. Awesome. Let me check to see if we have any more questions before we head out. Do we know if he's still with Chiquita Banana? Oh my god, I'm dead. Hopefully, he's got her name tattooed on his arm. Um, what have you learned and taken from that relationship moving forward?
The biggest thing is that I don't take people at their potential, I take them at their actions. Words have to align with actions. I don't care what someone says, I care what someone shows. And that's with everything. That's not even just with like, oh, he didn't think for this or that. It's like if they say they're this kind of person but behave as another, or they treat people one way but then act as another. There's so many times that he would like abandon people, block them. It's like, isn't it? And pretend to be their friend otherwise. It's so bizarre. And then honestly, trusting my instincts a little bit better. Like there were points like not initially, but later on where I felt like I should have keyed in or honed in on some of the things and done a little bit more research and not just going in blindly trusting this person. But that was another thing. I wasn't from Vegas, so nobody knew me enough or friends enough or whatever to kind of like let me know. But I just also didn't know people's reputation. So, don't be afraid to do a little more research, and you can look people up too. I mean, especially look into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really, really easy to search somebody's phone number
Yeah,
or their
I've
name.
done that with a couple of people, and I have avoided. I know some circumstances that I didn't get involved with, but I did because I'm
Yeah,
like,
too.
what are they gonna say? Like, if someone has done nothing and they're like, oh, I looked you up to make sure I was safe, they're not gonna be like, kind of like, oh, interesting, okay. But if
Right, a
someone's
good
bothered
person
by
would
that,
a good
it's like, you
person
should.
would literally say, like, "I'm glad you did that. That means you're smart. I
Yeah.
like smart people," you know?
Mhm.
I've been one of the things that I use religiously because, again, people can have aliases and all of this kind of stuff, but is, like, Face ID check and just
Mhm.
using facial recognition, so it's, like, literally I don't facecheck.id maybe, I don't know, it's a website, but you literally just upload their face, scans the whole entire internet, and it
No, that
shows you based off of, like, we think this is a percentage, it'll be green, it's like a stoplight kinda thing. 1, it's crazy to see how many people you look like on the internet, but 2, if someone like Dick, for example, has an alias and you are searching his name and nothing comes up, and then you realize, "Oh my god, this person has 5 lives." It's a good way to protect yourself.
so mad
Okay.
I have to make my nail appointment now.
I need to, like, go eat dinner. I didn't even
No,
eat
I'm
today.
hungry too. It's been
I'm
hours.
probably I'm so fucking hungry.
I was too
Um,
excited to eat. I had like a yogurt earlier, so I'm
did I
starving.
eat? Oh, I think I honestly probably just had a Kit Kat and some Starbucks, which is the the most ridiculous thing. But again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all the listeners and all of your questions. They're very helpful. If you want to get in touch with Ambry, I will put her all the tags so you can do so. Um, and yeah, I guess we'll see you next time. I'm Amanda Arnier, and this is the Dichotomy Diaries. See ya. So, we now, with absolute certainty, can 100% confirm that Dick really enjoys butt stuff. That he has a habit of intimidating women with his words and with his hands, and lies through his unnaturally white fake teeth. Perpetually. Which, by the way, he still hasn't paid for. Can you imagine having teeth in your mouth that you did not pay the dentist to put in and just like ducking and dodging the debt collectors? Like, I would just love it if they found him and ripped those bad boys out. That would tickle me. Anyways, I have to say, if there's one thing in this episode that I was absolutely floored when Ambry revealed to me, it's that Dick is also a stalker on top of everything else we already know about him. That's genuinely terrifying, but I guess if I think about it, it's also not surprising. He did show up randomly unannounced one day a few months ago to take the bed out from underneath me, the last thing that, I had of ownership. Anyways, I'm incredibly relieved that Ambry stays strapped out there in Sin City. I wish her nothing but the absolute best. Happiness, joy, safety, success, all of the things. I hope that you found her story of resilience as powerful as I did. Be sure to check out the episode description for all her social links. give her a follow, and then go check out the YouTube link to the video recording of this episode. Don't forget to subscribe so you're the first to know when new episodes drop. They always premiere on YouTube first. And guess what? You're in for a treat today, because today you not only get this episode, you get another. Head over to episode 31, Straight to Zell, to meet Savannah, another of Dick's ex-fiancés. I'm your host, Amanda Arnier, and this is the Dichotomy Diaries. See you next week.